Activision's latest Spider-Man release follows the plot of the upcoming movie, but with an emphasis on the action. Check out the variety of web-slinging tricks at your command, including the new yo-yo move, hanging from the ceiling, and the chance for some aerial combat. Spidey gets down and dirty with kicks, punches, suplexes, and even sitting on people's shoulders and pummeling their heads. Confront old favourites like the Shocker and Scorpion, along with classic villains making their debut in the video game format, the Vulture and the Green Goblin. The graphics are swish and true to that Spider-Man feel. Bound into the world of cartoon action with the craziest woodpecker known to man, Woody the Woodpecker. This madcap 3D adventure is the product of Dreamcatcher Interactive and tries to remain as true to the TV cartoons as possible. Woody's dastardly archenemy, Buzz Buzzard, has captured Woody's niece and nephew, Splinter and Knothead, within the deadly rides of his sinister theme park, Buzz Buzzard Park. And it's up to this heroic woodpecker to rescue the hapless half-pints from the vile vulture's evil clutches. The controls are simple and allow you to jump, duck, peck and surf your way through the many challenging obstacle courses as Woody competes with the various devilish rides around the park. You get to play with all three of the main characters as they romp about the numerous colourful environments. There are more than 30 levels to fool about in, and all of the scenery and action is designed to be in keeping with the actual cartoons. Even the problem solving demonstrates a strong leaning towards cartoon logic. Frontline puts you back in the shoes of Jimmy Patterson, hero of previous Medal of Honor titles. He's working with the OSS and now has to use different battle tactics to reach his new objective, stealing an experimental weapon that could very well turn the tide of war. By securing the devastatingly powerful top-secret flying wing, Patterson and his crew may save hundreds, even thousands of lives.
Sullivan, James P. and Mike Wazowski.
Monsters, Inc. is an action-adventure carrying the Disney and Pixar endorsements, set prior to the movie of the same name. So what's it all about? Monsters, Inc. is an organisation dedicated to collecting screams from children. These screams are needed to power the monster's world. But not just any monster can join this elite operation. First they must graduate from the training programme, and this is where we join the action. Mike, the walking eyeball thing, and Sully, the blue yeti, are training to become top scarers. You can switch from one to the other in order to solve the various challenges as you progress through the island training resort. You'll need to make your way through a variety of regions, including deserts, jungles and mountains, and be sure to scare the robotic children, dogs and the strange creatures called nerves. As you progress through the game, you learn new and more impressive scare tactics until you've collected all 18 and graduate to become full employees of Monsters, Inc.
Race is about to go green. Green flag, go, go,
EA Sports is bringing its stock car racing title up to date with a completely overhauled graphics engine, and as you can see, it's looking pretty good for it. You can also expect to find every NASCAR star, rookie and veteran, including such names as Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, Dale Jarrett, Bobby Labonte, Rusty Wallace, Jeff Burton, Bill Elliott, Michael Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr. With 4 car manufacturers, 23 tracks and all the usual game modes from quick races to full career simulations, NASCAR racing has never looked so good. Last month we reviewed Metal Gear Solid 2. Now we can offer you more insights into the twisty-turny plot as we delve deeper into the game. This all-new action from the latter half of the game reveals new characters and locations as your covert team continue to thwart the plans of the Sons of Liberty. Holding hostages and threatening world security, this group of highly trained terrorists, led by the mysterious Solid Snake, represents your greatest challenge yet. The plot is deep and involving, with many new revelations, along with plenty of references to events from the previous Metal Gear assignment in Shadow Moses.
That's Metal Gear! Been waiting long? Find something to believe in, and find it for yourself. And when you do, pass it on to the future.
Believe in what?
That's your problem.
So you're the boss around here?
No, not just around here. I'm the boss to surpass Big Boss himself.
Forget what you think you know about this game. Everything has changed. Solid, Dead Cell, the Patriots, Ninja, Ocelot. What do they really want? Only time will tell. A host of questions wait to be answered in this fantastic story, and if you watch closely, you might just get a clue to some of the answers.
Brother, I'm a whole different game from Liquid. Solid Snake. No, that is not Solid Snake.
Transcending history and the world, a tale of souls and swords, eternally retold. Welcome to the new stage of history.
地獄へ行くのはお前が先だ。
Set to take us back to the simplicity and elegance of the classic platform games of old, whilst making the most of PS2 power. Maximo Ghosts to Glory isn't exactly a sequel, it's more of a homage to the Ghosts and Goblins games. With some clever gameplay, likeable characters and an offbeat sense of humour, there's plenty here to make a very addictive game. And you can thank Susumu Matsushita, one of Japan's leading artists, for the cute character design. Disproportionate heads are all the rage over there. We've been over the story before, but it isn't really important as the arcade action really speaks for itself. Your job is to smash all sorts of enemies, collect the goodies, and replace your armour regularly as the attacking hordes destroy it. The intricacies of the game are explained as you go along, seamlessly integrated into the action, and the control system itself is extremely intuitive, following Maximo in third-person mode, but allowing you to look about with the camera in order to get a feel for your environment. The locations are impressive. You can interact with almost all of them, smashing down gravestones and discovering secret entrances to caves filled with loot. But you'll also find it fighting back as earthquakes rack the tortured lands and the dead claw at you from their graves. As you progress through the game, collecting coins to pay the Reaper, you can earn all manner of power-ups, weapons and new moves.
Who shall live and who shall die?
Vampire Night from Sega's WoW Entertainment takes us to a remote and spooky location in Europe where, guess what, vampires have taken over the night.
They're coming. Following
in WoW's House of the Dead tradition, Vampire Night is designed for use with the gun-con light gun. Although it can be used with a joypad if you're a complete masochist. And that isn't the end of the similarities between these two games either. You take on the role of either Mitchell or Albert, two long-coat-wearing vampire slayers, who are all that stand between numerous innocent civilians and vampiric horror.
Who are you?
We hunt the creatures of the dark. Vampire hunters.
Of course, when the action gets heated, the chances are that these two trigger-happy hooligans will be just as lethal to the civilians as any vampire.
Why is this happening?
The action itself is obviously in the style of House of the Dead, and the progress is fairly linear, although there are branches in the course of events depending upon your ability to deal with the innocents. Save them and you follow one line of the story, screw up and you end up on a different leg of the adventure.
Gee, I was scared. Please get them.
Reload!
But it's not just the vampires and other creatures of the night that will fill you with terror. The awful voice acting and terrible cutscenes are also cause for much screaming. But fortunately, these two aspects aren't the reason we play these games for them.
Vampire Night.
Making survival horror like it should be, Digital Mayhem introduces us to some great sci-fi scares in Run Like Hell. Set in deep space, a mining team have their ship infiltrated by a previously undiscovered alien, who seems to possess some level of collective consciousness.
Rossetti Station, this is Shuttle 1, permission to dock. Rossetti Station, this is Shuttle 1, please respond.
Nick, what's wrong?
I don't know. Communication array probably went down again.
You don't sound very convincing.
It may not be the most original plot in the world, but it certainly works, and is spiced up with numerous twists and turns. This story is presented to you in a number of well-integrated cutscenes, setting the mood for this dark and complicated scenario.
It looks like they landed with the automated supply ship, and then somehow blocked the main elevator. No one could be evacuated.
Adding to the atmosphere are the voice talents of such celebrities as Lance Henriksen, Kate Mulgrew, and Clancy Brown. So although the character movements may be a bit rough, at least they sound convincing.
Took only 8 hours. And there was nothing left.
And Run Like Hell has also thought long and hard about the common problem of being killed by off-screen monsters due to the fixed camera angles. Here you only get fixed viewpoints whilst exploring, and the moment a monster appears on the scene, the viewpoint shifts to a third-person perspective.
What are these things?
The puzzles are varied and interesting, often taking the form of mini-games, which change the nature of the action for a while, such as controlling robots or just seeing things from an alternative perspective as you overcome an immediate problem.
You hear that?
The aliens themselves all look very impressive, with an obvious nod in the direction of the Alien movies and H.R. Geiger. They also share something of a hive mind, which allows them to learn from your behaviour. So as you progress through the game, so does the alien menace, and things that worked earlier on won't work later. You'll have to learn to outwit the creature as it takes over more and more of the ship. Lose this battle of wits and you lose everything.
The things are outside, and I don't know when they'll get in, but help, please.
For those who favour the more traditional side of sports, Centre Court Championship Tennis presents quite a bargain at only £30. Fast gameplay, awesome multiplayer potential, and a grass court that vaguely resembles Wimbledon hints towards a fairly decent interpretation of Sega's genre-defining Virtua Tennis. Centre Court presents characters based on real players, instead of the actual tennis superstars themselves. Andre Agassi is the obvious inspiration behind the balding baseline master Bulgakov, and Boris Becker is a dead ringer for the German ace Schumann. The graphics are adequate, with the well-rounded characters working up for a distinctly flat-looking audience. New features have been strung together too. You may well think it's best to serve as hard as possible, but in practice the harder you blast the ball over the net, the faster it comes back. Regular shots and lobs are boosted by the addition of a charge gauge. Hold the button down to perform a harder shot, or press it quickly for a softer and more accurate shot. Game modes are a bit thin on the ground, but nevertheless fast and fun to play. Arcade mode provides a simple knockout tournament against the game's other characters, with a training section to polish up your act. Exhibition mode completes the lineup, offering both singles and doubles on-court action.
then the Canadian team.
Salt Lake City 2002 Winter Olympic Games is the officially endorsed game of the Winter Olympics, published by IDOS and the team who brought you Sydney 2000, although this time without the competition from the ESPN Games. There are 6 events recreated here for you to try your hands at. You can enter into the men's alpine skiing downhill, the ladies' alpine skiing slalom, the men's 2-man bobsleigh.
This is the form we knew they were capable of.
Yes, some excellent sliding as they pass through this section. It'll certainly have contributed to their good time.
The women's freestyle skiing aerials.
And that's a poor takeoff. I think the judges will have liked that jump.
The men's ski jumping K120 individual.
And a good transition into his flight. A fantastic jump there. Great distance, great style.
And the men's snowboarding parallel giant slalom.
And the Canadian in the blue lane reaches the halfway mark first.
All of these courses have been lovingly recreated with every twist and turn included to give you as true-to-life experience as possible.
But don't forget the poor takeoff, which certainly accounted for the majority of her lost points.
There are 4 play modes to try out, consisting of Olympic, Tournament, Classic and Freeform, as well as an exciting multiplayer option catering for up to 4 players, including a split-screen slalom race.
Yes, excellent jumping, Stuart. You can see in the replay, he's really found some top form.
And you can play as any one of the 16 countries involved in the events, so there should be something here for everyone to cheer on.
Yes, he held off his opponent well on the bottom section.
Developer attention to detail is making every effort to make the experience as authentic as possible. The athletes' animations have been motion captured for each of the events, and the terrain has been precision modelled from first-hand information and satellite imagery to make it accurate to within 2 feet of the real thing. Very impressive considering the length of some of these courses.
They cruise through to the second round. Well, it might be that a more challenging opponent awaits them now.
The physics engine includes inverse kinematics and physical modelling, which amongst other things means that the skier's knees absorb a lot of the bumps of the landscape. And you can adjust the weather conditions to suit your mood, or to make the contest that little bit more challenging.
That was certainly a performance for this Canadian to be proud of, and the result that really couldn't have been better.
Konami's original PS2 snowboarding entry was eclipsed by SSX, but now it's back for another try, with the snappily titled ESPN Winter X Games Snowboarding 2002. Carrying a battery of licenses from ESPN TV, professional snowboarders, boards and other essential gear, you can expect to see a lot of familiar sights here. The 12 snowboarders include gold medalists Peter Line, Todd Richards and Tina Basic. This time we can expect to see a concentration on the tricks and branching courses, rather than the simple downhill formula of the previous game. The controls are very smooth, which allows you to pull off the tricks without too many difficulties. And the tricks themselves work with a time-based link system, giving the opportunity to link all sorts of moves together in a limited amount of time. There are 4 events to compete in, consisting of slopestyle, halfpipe, big air and the newly created border cross events, which feature a 6-way downhill competition. These events are held across 20 new courses from around the world, visiting such locations as the Alps, Scandinavia, Japan, Canada, New Zealand, Colorado and Alaska. The snowboarder mode takes things a step further by allowing you to build up your career from nothing, starting in your hometown and moving around to different locations to earn money, boards and even tricks. The aim is to make your way to the top using signature tricks, acquiring sponsors and moving on to different locales. Will it make a bigger impact than its predecessor? Well, it certainly looks like it has a lot to offer.
Your appointment to FEMA should be finalized within the week. I've already discussed the matter with the Senator.
I take it he was agreeable?
He didn't really have a choice.
Has he been infected?
Oh yes, most certainly.
When Deus Ex arrived on PC, it was the cause of great excitement. And now this amazing game is coming to PlayStation 2, tweaked, tested and perfected. So what makes it so great? First and foremost, Deus Ex is designed to be as versatile and complete as possible. The theory is that if it works in the real world, then it'll work here. Blending shooting, role-playing and action-adventure styles, it actually manages to transcend all of these categories and become something more.
The others may not go as quietly as you think. Intelligence indicates
to begin with, you get to spend your initial points choosing your character's abilities. You can't buy everything, so it's best to concentrate on the areas that interest you. This is really where you define your approach to the game. If you choose heaps of combat skills, then you'll be fighting your way through. Select a more stealthy option and the shadows will become your friends.
In areas they refuse to consider.
The augmentation project.
Your abilities are a little rough around the edges at the start, but as you progress, you'll soon become adept in your chosen fields. The levels are designed to be approached in whatever manner you like, so every method will work if you apply yourself to it. There's no set solution, and your personal approach may lead you to see parts of the level you may otherwise have never even seen.
Aquinas spoke of the mythical city on the hill. Soon, that city will be a reality, and we will be crowned its kings. Better than kings. Gods! Rockstar have a history of courting controversy with their games. After the furore caused by the Grand Theft Auto series, they're now going for broke with State of Emergency, an all-out riot simulator. Set in an oppressive city environment, a group called the American Trade Organization has taken control due to the growing unruliness of the populace. In an attempt to minimize organized rebellion, they have restricted access across the city. You play one of 5 members of this organized resistance. There are 4 city districts to progress through, and each of them holds over 20 missions, including helping out your fellow resistance fighters, taking apart opposing forces, and generally causing as much mayhem as possible. As you've no doubt noticed, the gameplay primarily consists of out-and-out rioting. Almost everything in the huge environments can be smashed, thrown, or otherwise vandalized, and the Denzians all react differently to your behaviour. Some will run for cover, some stand and stare, whilst others join in or even attack you. And the game's engine does an amazing job of keeping it all moving, even allowing up to 100 people to fight on the screen at once. Besides the regular military hardware,
There's also a variety of less conventional weapons to be had, such as bricks, benches and trash cans. You can even pick up dismembered limbs and beat people to a pulp with the wet end. The cartoony graphics are about the only justification for getting away with this kind of behaviour, removing an element of realism and providing a very twisted sense of humour. So that's alright then. Utterly un-PC, State of Emergency could cause offence to a lot of people, but taken as it's intended, it's just a whole load of mindless fun. Let's just hope that everyone sees it that way. Wipeout Fusion is based around the new F9000 Federation Racing League for anti-gravity spacecraft, and the overall gameplay is remarkably familiar to previous Wipeout installments. Fast, furious and even smoother than before, but that's what we expected. The physics model for the new range of craft has been completely recreated, with 48 independent parameters influencing your craft's handling, movement and stability issues, and it all works remarkably well. Even compared to the previous title's reputation for superb game physics, the PS2's analog control system turns lightning-quick reflexes into a well-balanced gameplay. Wipeout Fusion also implements a new pilot system. In addition to the 32 different crafts available, a variety of flight attendants that add their own stats and characteristics to the craft's overall performance, and powering up your driver and vehicle with upgrades adds to the new progressional theme. This slightly new take on Sony's established school of anti-gravity racing spans 7 futuristic locations, each split into 3 post-apocalyptic courses. The revised freeform nature of the tracks provides the opportunity to choose your own route through the twisting looped forms. A marginal experience overall, and not as free as it sounds. The revised weapon systems are suitably spectacular, with super weapons available to each racing team once you've unlocked them, and satellite attacks and turbo enforcers providing a new angle of attack. But overall, weapons, power-ups and loop-de-loops have all been included in the usual Wipeout fashion, just with a higher degree of polish. Namco's Ace Combat 4 continues in the great tradition of the Ace Combat series, providing a fantastic blend of arcade action and simulation-like qualities.
Mobius 1, you are cleared for takeoff.
But this time on a much bigger scale, and with greatly enhanced visuals.
Use the dock to shelter the warships.
The controls are detailed enough to give you a sense of presence, without getting bogged down in too much detail. You can control the throttle, rudders, stabilizers and elevators, but that's as complex as it needs to get. Your aircraft can be armed with a number of weapons, but you have a preposterous amount of guided air-to-air missiles with which to obliterate the enemy forces.
Guns destroyed.
While slightly unrealistic, this feature does mean that air combat rarely devolves into machine gun jousts.
Hard enemy radar spike.
And the secondary weapons work on a more limited basis, so bombing runs become a slightly more precision operation.
I'm supporting
The missions begin with some simple operations to hit sitting ducks.
Pickle! Enemy vessel sunk.
But quickly evolve into something wholly more challenging, including massive dogfights and attack runs on ground targets.
Enemy facility destroyed.
And the missions are interspersed with comic book cutscenes that piece the nice little story together in an unobtrusive manner.
Missile shot trashed.
As you progress through the levels, your hangar of available aircraft expands.
Enemy vessel sunk.
Initially, you have to make do with an old F4 plane, but you'll soon gain more, others being granted for exceptional performances during the missions.
Mobius 1 destroyed the target.
It won't be long before you get behind the joystick of wings like the MiG and the whole range of American F-Series warbirds.
Mobius 1 shot down a target.
There are even some ultra-modern aircraft, such as the Ford-swept Su-37, F-15 Active, and F-22 Raptor ATF.
Mobius 1 shot down a target.
The split-screen multiplayer mode is also good fun, with cooperative training missions and good old-fashioned dogfights to keep you busy. Both the aircraft and the scenery are represented in gorgeous detail, and the scenes only show if you're foolish enough to engage in some extremely low-level aerobatics. This has to be one of the best combat flying games out there. Although a little short with just 20 missions, you'll find that they are eminently replayable and the multiplayer options continue to keep things fresh.
Target hit. Hard right, now! Target destruction confirmed.
Ace Combat Force soars above the competition. Ubisoft's limbless wonder is leaping back into action with Rayman M. That's M for multiplayer if you hadn't already guessed. It's an update of previous Rayman outings, revamped with extra levels. Up to 4 players can now compete head-to-head within the familiar settings. As always, pit traversing and lava hopping are the general themes, broken up with some attractive racing-style sub-levels. This time you'll need to set well-placed traps to catch out your adversaries in order to be the last man standing. Instead of the open-ended nature of Rayman 2, everything is now pretty much on rails. There are various powers to give you the racing edge, along with a host of new abilities. Players take control of some of the game's favourite characters, including Rayman himself, and you'll soon find yourself running, jumping and climbing trees in an attempt to keep ahead of your rivals. Rayman M is nice to look at, not quite as stunning as Rayman Revolution, but the backdrops for each of the numerous levels draw you into a slick and immensely playable game. Fairly engaging in the short term as a multiplayer challenge, but rather dull when played alone. Res is one of those games that is completely uncategorizable. As a shooting game, it's utterly useless, but as an experience, it's something else. What exactly, we don't know, but definitely something else. The controls are basic in the extreme, with a movable targeting reticule, a fire button, and a second button that triggers the all-obliterating overdrive attack.
simple to play, but impossible to understand. The main concept involves you shooting things. Sometimes these things break up into other things that also require shooting, and sometimes they might break into things that you should collect. And each thing you destroy causes a particular sound, which a skilled shooter can theoretically cause to make some manner of tune in combination with the chilled out background music. However, the chances of anyone memorizing the noises and trying to play any sort of tune are pretty much zero. Of the pickups, probably the most important are the blue crystals. As you collect these, the white bar increases. When it fills up, your avatar upgrades to the next stage, beginning to look more humanoid. But you'll need to keep doing this because every time you're hit, you degrade a little, eventually devolving to a simple ball before disappearing entirely. The other handy collectibles are the red crystals. These items add to your overdrive bar. This comes in useful to wipe out everything in sight when it all becomes too much to bear. It's all very bizarre, hardly a game at all, more of a strange and mind-opening trip. As a shooting game, it's awful, but it can have a hypnotic power nonetheless. Whether it's worth your money or not really depends upon your tolerance for this kind of thing. Not everyone's taste, certainly, but mesmerising to those who've played it for any length of time.
For 500 years, dolphins and humans had lived together in unity, harmony, and fellowship.
Echo the Dolphin's latest adventure, Defender of the Future, comes to PS2 via the Dreamcast. This aquatic adventure begins with a lengthy storytelling sequence in which it's revealed that a mysterious planet-threatening force known as the Foe is poised to pull the plug on Earth's inhabitants. The enormous 3D environments created for Echo to explore are simply incredible, each crammed with a vast array of superbly animated sea life. Echo himself is particularly impressive, jumping and splashing around with fluidity. Beyond Echo's basic abilities, which include the attacking high-speed nosebutt, sonar songs can be used to communicate and manipulate other creatures and are picked up as you progress throughout the adventure. Overall, this makes for one of the most relaxing and subliminally soothing game experiences ever. But frustratingly enough, it's plagued with the same annoyances inexplicably unchanged from the Dreamcast version. Impatient players will soon become irritated by the lack of direction, and the tasks themselves aren't particularly inspired. Some early levels can take hours to complete, while a few of the later missions can offer no more than 20 minutes of gameplay. You'll also find yourself retreading the same old ground several times over, not intentionally, but as a result of the difficulty in navigating the environments. This was possibly the biggest criticism aimed at the Dreamcast version, but it's been slightly improved for PS2 owners by the inclusion of a compass that points you in the general direction of your next task. The slight slightly unbalanced learning curve and lack of direction at times is the main gripe, but overall Defender of the Future is beautifully crafted and entertaining through each of the 30 beautiful looking levels on offer.
He was destined to become the only hope for humans and dolphins. Echo, defender of Earth's future.
THQ is determined to make bass fishing a popular pastime, and Bass Strike sure tries to liven things up with an exciting collage of edited highlights providing the game's intro sequence. The game itself doesn't do too badly either, with a simple selection of short challenge-themed fishing tests, along with a challenging tournament mode. You'll find yourself cruising about the lakes in your motorboat, searching out those prime fishing spots, trying different lures, and twitching your rod in just the right way to attract those elusive piskeens. At least that's the idea. In fact, these fish seem to have little interest in being caught, and even ignore bait hung right in front of their mouths. However, get one hooked, and you still have the challenge of bringing it in. You'll need to follow the display to keep track of its movements, while spinning the right analog stick to simulate the fishing reel. It makes the whole thing very easy to follow and simple enough for the newcomer to get straight into.
The line's gonna break.
The graphics are a bit primitive compared to what we have come to expect from PS2, especially in the underwater environments, and the collision detection is pretty poor, even allowing the hook and bait to pass through the fish.
Got him!
Add to that some shoddy camera work, and there is plenty of room for improvement here.
Watch your tension.
There is also a bizarre choice of background music for such a gentle game. Fortunately, you can turn this off and relax to the tranquil twittering of birds and the gentle purr of your boat's engine.
I'll take it.
It may look a bit rough with a strange music track, but the fishing is okay, and that's what counts. It's challenging with plenty of places to explore and try your luck.
Fight it.
Bass Strike proves to be an acceptable cult game, but probably not something to interest non-fishers.
I'll take it.
Increase to 500 megahertz.
Jack Wade can't remember a damn thing. After suffering a bout of amnesia, head honcho of the infamous anti-crime network returns to consciousness in a strange laboratory surrounded by even stranger-looking people. And what's more, his official ACN headhunting status has been revoked. Once responsible for hunting down hardened criminals for their bodily organs, Jack must now reapply for his post. His old friend Angela Stern, daughter of the assassinated ACN founder Christopher Stern, then asks for Jack's help and expertise in tracking down her father's killers. And so the mystery begins. Headhunter's blend of action and stealth works nicely enough, despite the nagging feeling that you've shot these bad guys, solved these puzzles, and collected this item 101 times before. To assist you in the tasks ahead, you get to use a fantastic motorcycle, which provides great satisfaction when roaring around the city.
Jack Wade, meet Bruce. Bruce, kill Jack Wade.
A wide selection of weapons are available, But first you'll need to complete various Layla ranking tests set by your agency. Layla stands for Law Enforcement Intelligence and License Approval, and what it really boils down to is a series of virtual reality challenges. Jack must exercise his shooting, creeping and riding skills with increasing verve in order to access the next area in town and new types of weaponry.
Now how do I get in there?
My hand.
False fingerprints. Move.
Getting to the bottom of the overall mystery, worked on by none other than Philip X-Files Lawrence, provides plenty of criminals and boss types for your personal attention. And the scenes are dealt with in a very Resident Evil way, with the viewpoint positioned at some dramatic angle rather than always behind Jack's back.
If we can hook my computer into the bank's mainframe, I should be able to scramble the transfer requests so they're no longer recognized.
Headhunter provides plenty of satisfying adventure. The bike sections are pretty good for travelling between the A and B objectives, but it's a disappointment that you can't dismount whenever you like and run around. It's not quite the amazing experience it was hyped up to be, but still a very enjoyable, good-looking adventure with a great storyline.
Help me! Pull me up!
Namco's MotoGP 2 brings the great biking game up to date, but sadly that's as far as it goes. Owners of the original game will find almost everything very familiar, with little new to inspire them. What you do get are 5 brand new tracks. That brings the total up to a measly 10. Now, considering that the actual championship manages 16, we're still not quite there. The bikes themselves handle exactly as they did in the first game, so no new challenge here either. That said, however, the handling is actually really good. And if you haven't played the original, then you should really try it for yourself. Unfortunately, the crashes aren't all that impressive. They can easily be caused by a slight miscalculation in handling and result in your rider collapsing in various unconvincing ways. If you want to avoid these, which is really the point after all, you'll need to develop an intimate knowledge of each of the tracks, challenging certainly, but not really all that much fun. Legends mode is a breath of fresh air, pitting you against the greats of the MotoGP scene. Wayne Rainey, Mick Doohan, Kenny Roberts and Kevin Schwartz. And no amount of tuning will give you the edge here. These guys are tuned to the max and know how to ride. You'll need the perfect wheels and the skill to make the most of them if you want to compete in this race. If you don't own MotoGP, then this sequel is well worth a look at, especially for bike fans. But if you do own the original, then you can expect to have 5 new tracks, the new liveries and a hardcore challenge in the form of the Legends mode, probably not enough to be worth your 40 quid.
Jeremy McGrath have joined forces to bring you off-road motorbiking action in Jeremy McGrath's Supercross world. So what went wrong? The action centres on a combination of racing and stunts, with some challenge tests put in for good measure. Unfortunately, even the broad selection of riders fails to compensate for the fact that it just doesn't look good. The scenery is glitchy, with a disappointing lack of detail, and we'd rather not talk about the two-player mode. The camera often has trouble tracking your bike, leading to crashes that occur simply because you can't see where you're going. There's a lengthy career mode, in which you can unlock the various hidden features, and this is about the only thing that will hold you for long. Otherwise, you're left with the challenges to try to beat, which includes things such as performing stunts, big air, and even collecting helmets. The problem is that nothing here really catches the attention. We've recently witnessed such joys as ATV Off-Road Fury, and this just doesn't even come close. Extreme sports are supposed to be exciting, and this just isn't.
It's Arsenal versus Liverpool. Well, this one comes from North London, home of the Gunners.
Originally seen on the PS1, UEFA Champions League is making its debut onto the PlayStation 2, but has it managed to make the leap in tag?
Progressing downfield, did well to find his man.
The gameplay is faithful to its predecessors, but moves along at a better pace. It still sits between the FIFA and the Pro Evolution Soccer games in terms of complexity, but the basic control system allows some deft flicks, one-touch passing, and blistering volleys to be carried out without mastering any confusing button combinations.
Into the danger area. It was a goal.
Despite being easy to pick up, there is still plenty of depth, and it's well worth getting some practice in to get the hang of all the neat little tricks and moves you can learn with a little effort.
Cuts into the box now. That was a very important challenge.
But don't think that this simplistic control system is going to lead to huge scorelines. The artificial intelligence for the opposing teams is very impressive, and you'll have to put in all the appropriate build-up and preparation if you want to take a realistic shot at goal.
Well, we couldn't have asked for a better start than that.
All 32 teams from this season's tournament are included, complete with the players' names and stats, official kits and sponsors. And over a dozen stadia have been faithfully recreated as well.
We'll see the long ball a lot today.
The graphics for both these and the players themselves make full use of the PS2's capabilities. You can even see shirts ripple and their studs sink into the turf. Even the camera work is up to TV standards, and the whole experience is completed with the voices of ITV presenters Guy Mowbray, Gabby Logan and Barry Venison.
A bit wayward, a bit overambitious, I think. On the attack, met by the head, yes, it's a goal!
You also get a historical mode for the nostalgic amongst you, allowing you to recreate past glories using some of the greatest teams brought to the competition in years gone by. Although the simplistic playing style allows for easy access to the game and keeps the action moving along nicely, serious football fans will find it too limited in scope and not in the same league as Pro Evolution Soccer.
団国道会の住職以外で今夜大量の拳銃密輸取引が行われるとの情報をキャッチした主犯格である6人の指名手配犯に対して
Police 24/7 made its debut in the form of an arcade machine last winter, but now Konami is bringing this first-person light gun shooter to PlayStation 2. Taking up your position in the police force, you get to make your way through a whole range of missions, visiting many different locations throughout the city. You can expect to get embroiled in shady club shootouts and intense police chases as you hunt down the numerous wrongdoers that plague the innocent civilians. As you progress through the levels, your performance will be graded and your rank improves as you go, eventually leading to the assignment of Police Commissioner. This is an exact copy of the arcade machine, but with some extra features added, including new training and challenge modes. One of the best things about the game is the light gun. This special weapon can also be used with silent scope too. You can also play the game with a special motion sensor add-on. This sits by the TV and tracks the movements of your head, which are then copied quite accurately by your in-game character. This makes the whole thing a lot more involving. If you're looking for a light gun game with a difference, then Police 24/7 might be just the thing to get you into the thick of the action. Here's something different. How do you fancy becoming the lead actor in a superhero TV series? That's the challenge in Superhero. Fame and fortune can be yours, as long as you prove yourself to be popular. Being a superhero isn't all glamour and epic battles. If the public aren't impressed, then the media will drop you like a chunk of kryptonite. You begin by creating your superhero identity. You'll need a name and then a costume. This can be assembled by selecting the various articles of clothing on offer, giving you an impressive range of over 16 million variations. You also need to name your show. Then you're ready for action. Each episode of your show is 30 minutes long, and in this time you have to uncover the plot, fight the baddies, defeat evil and save the city. All the time bombarding the viewers with over-the-top acting, cheesy catchphrases and schlock special effects. Cameras follow your every move as you explore the 17 locations throughout the city. There are 160 different individuals to speak to while searching for the clues to solving your current plot. But if you simply wander around for ages asking the same people the same questions, then your viewing public will be turning off in droves. Whatever you do, you have to make it dynamic and exciting. When your 30 minutes is up, the villain is defeated and everyone is safe to sleep in their beds once more, the credits roll, and there's a final clip showing a sneak preview of next week's show, worth watching for clues as to what to do next time. At this point, your performance is evaluated by the audience reaction. If you've entertained and impressed, then you get to star again next week.
I have no energy left.
Take a look at the amazing cooperative two-player mode that Baldur's Gate has to offer. Providing great fun with plenty of carnage and no sign of slowdown, there are many hours of entertainment to be had here. You can switch between 1 and 2 player modes, using characters from your saved games to help each other out. So if your friend is having trouble with one part, then you can always bring in a hero from a previous game to help out. There's a number of secret characters to unearth, such as Drizdu Erden, the legendary hero of the Icewind Dale series. Simply defeat the game's extreme mode and he becomes available to lend his paired scimitars to your cause. True in every detail to the official Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Forgotten Realms character.
No energy left. I have no energy left. There's no...